Hey there, it's Imu. The topic for today is how to use inkstone. So here I have two inkstone. The first one is the one I've been using for years. It's a round one. Another one is a rectangle one, which I just bought it off Amazon. So you can get a lot of this from Amazon or from AliExpress. And the last one is a non-inkstone. It's just a glass cup, a little one. So I will show you how I use each of these containers when I'm using either ink or ink stick. Okay, let's start with ink. Say I have ink, then how do I use with inkstone and the brush? Okay, so first, let's start with this old inkstone that I've been using for years. As you can see, there's a lot of dried ink. That's because every time after using it, I don't wash it off because one, I'm lazy. Imagine I'm using it every day and afterwards I need to wash out all the ink. I just feel like I'm lazy, I don't want to do that. Although a lot of people say if you want to take good care of the inkstone, you'd better wash it off every time and make it clean. And they even use the word raise an inkstone, which seems like they're thinking of inkstone as their, I don't know, their pet, and they raise them, like take really good care of them. I think it might make sense, but me being a lazy person for years stopped me from forming that good habit. But as you can see, I've been using this inkstone for a lot of years and it's still good so far. So I say I might not form the good habit of rinsing it off every time. But anyway, you can see there's a center palette in the middle. So me personally, I like pouring ink in the surrounding area. Okay, you don't really need that much. All right. Oh, also you notice that I always put some paper towel or some other papers beneath the ink stone because, well, it's really easy to get messy when you are adjusting your brush hair in the inkstone because sometimes there's too much ink and it will spill off. So I highly recommend you put some paper towel in between your inkstone and the mat. Now I've had some ink in the surrounding area, and if you think the ink is too thick, you just go ahead and add a little bit of water. So here I'm just gonna pour the water from my mug, just a little bit. Also in the surrounding area. Okay, so I poured a little bit more because there's already the dried ink left over from last time, so I know it's gonna be thick. But if you're using a new inkstone, you don't really need to pour that much of water because everything is new and there's no dried thick ink there. Okay, so now what do I do? Then you take your brush that you want to use, and first you need to make it wet, which means you want to rinse it for several seconds to make it wet. And this is important for the brush because think of the brush hair as your hair, right? When you are dyeing your hair or something, you want to first make it wet before applying the paint on your hair, because if you apply the paint directly to your hair, it will damage your hair. So the same idea applies to the brush. So you first want to make it wet and then apply the ink. So you see, I will just soak my brush in the ink. Okay, if you write like this directly, then it will be too much ink. And you see, it's even dripping off the brush. So what do I do? Here comes the importance of the center palette, I would say, and also the edge of the inkstone. So there are two ways to get rid of this extra ink. One way is to just adjust the brush on the edge of this ink stone. So you don't want to do it vertically, you want to do it horizontally. Just trim the hair, like when you are combing your hair, right? Just trim it. And that's why I think it's important to have this protection of this paper towel, because especially this step, it's really to get the ink out. This is one way. Some other people would like to use the central palette and do it like this. So for example, if some hair is off, it's not smooth enough, you just do it horizontally. We have our brush well prepared and we can go ahead and write our first character. If you don't use it, you can just put it here like this. So don't put it on the mattress directly because the ink will get everywhere. You always wanna put your brush against the palette. Or if you have a brush holder, that's even better. You can just put it at brush holder, but I don't have it, so I just put it here. Let me just write several characters randomly. So you see, now it's in pretty good shape. Let's write my name together, maybe. This is 1, which is E. And you see, after writing it, this brush is a little bit off. It's not straight anymore because I press it in one direction, right? So here, at this time, we wouldn't keep on writing. We would trim it again in the center palette before writing the next character. Maybe writing the sun.太阳 means sun. That's for using this round one. Let me show you how to use this rectangle one. So for this rectangle one, it's similar. Instead, we don't have the lid, but I don't think that's super important because a lot of times the lid is to protect the water in the ink evaporate after you use it, but I feel like after a whole day, especially in the dry area, it will evaporate anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This one doesn't have a lid, but it's fine. You see, this is like a pool where on one end is deeper, on the other end is shallower. So the idea here is that when you are pouring, you pour in the deeper part so that it can collect water. Very similar to this round one where you pour in the surrounding area where it's deeper. We pour ink here, and if you think it's too thick, you add some water. And then you got some ink in the deep area, and you trim your brush horizontally in the shallow area. Or you can just get rid of the extra ink to adjust the brush against the edge. Okay, so what if you say, I don't really want to buy a inkstone? Is that okay? That's totally fine, because I've seen a lot of even like master in calligraphy, they don't even use inkstone, they just use any container. For example, this is a glass one, even the plastic one, but be careful. If it's a plastic one, which is very lightweight, then it's really easy to knock it off. And that's the last thing we want, right? So just be careful when you are using these high containers, okay? So the idea is very similar. If you're using the ink, you just pour a little bit, you don't need that much. And then you get some ink at the bottom, but because you don't have a center palette anymore, you cannot adjust your brush horizontally here. So you need to go ahead to trim your brush against the edge. So that's the only way to do it. That's fine. I feel like it's very similar to here. It's just you don't have a center palette anymore. So I would say if you're not using ink, if you're using an ink stick, that will be totally different story. If you're using ink stick, this type of container would not be that easy to use, especially if it's so high up. Let me tell you why. So I just got an ink stick from Amazon. It's saying 金不换, and there's 金不换 here also, which means I wouldn't trade this with a gold, to demonstrate how treasurable or important it is in people's mind. So let me just get rid of the plastic. Well, I know it looks very beautiful and cute, and a lot of people don't want to use it. Yeah, that's totally fine because ink is way more convenient. You can just think of this as a cute little thing. But if you do want to use it, how do we use it? It will be great to have a shallow area and a deep area, because we want to put the water in the deep area. Let's say this much water. There's the water here. I will put my ink stick inside the water and put some water on the shallow area. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna grind my ink stick against the shallow area, because the palette here is flatter than the deeper area. Well, some people also prefer to just do this in the deeper area. That's totally fine also, but I would say I like in the shallow area. So you just go ahead and do this. Actually, if you're grinding this and feel the smoothness here, it's really relaxing, and hearing the sound can make you calm down. So that's why some people still prefer to use ink stick instead of using ink directly, because they want to prepare themselves mentally for writing the calligraphy. They want to get rid of all those bad thoughts or like anxiety in their mind and just concentrate on the grinding of the ink stick and concentrate on the sound, like the activity itself. So that's why a lot of people still really enjoy this process. Okay, I guess it's getting darker. So let's get more water here and then grind. Get a little bit more water. More water. Okay, I guess I've been grinding for only a minute, and we just hold it off here. And let's see how dark the water becomes now. Okay, let me write a character here. I'm using a new brush this time, so remember, we trim. Not sure if you guys can see it. It's not that dark, right? So if we write it, for example, here, we can hardly see it. It's grayish. So that means, okay, 1 minute grinding is definitely not okay. Let's try more time. Okay, I grind it for another 2 minutes, and let's see. Another one. Okay, it's definitely darker, but it's not as dark as this, right? So let's grind it even more. Got some water. Okay, I guess I've been grinding for 5 minutes. Let's see how it looks like now. Another one. Okay, it's darker. But as you can see, it's still not as dark as this one. So I would say if you want to get this dark, maybe you need 20 or 30 minutes-ish of grinding. That is for today, and hopefully you like this video. If you think it's informative and entertaining, please give me a thumb up, and see you guys next time. Cheers!